in the kitchen, so many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.
Hello everybody, my name is Dilla Barman. I'm a cook in the kitchen in Durham, North Carolina. There's about 20 or 30 of us cooks in the kitchen. We are a group of Physicians Committee Food for Life instructors. Food for Life is a nutrition education program where we share classes about staying healthy, and if we stray into some difficult health situations, we have classes focused on how to manage and how to reverse possibly some of those situations. Before we start today's show, and we do these shows every month, we've been doing them since May 2020. If this is your first time, welcome. I know many of you have been with us from the beginning, so welcome to you as well. Before we start today, I would be remiss not to acknowledge that today is September 11th. It's the 20th anniversary of a very terrible day. We thought about this, and out of respect, we were wondering if we shouldn't have the show, but we decided that the terrorists win if we give up the day. So we acknowledge the terror of September 11th, but we look forward to sharing some goodness today and moving on to times when we're all united and doing good. So with that, I wanted to talk about salads. And I have a list here of what we're doing today. I'm really excited. Today's show is called So Many Salads. But Dillip, salads sound really easy. Why do we need to see a show, Kitchen to Kitchen, about salads? Well, today we're going to share some salads that aren't typical. They aren't iceberg lettuce with a little bit of tomato and some French dressing. We're going to do something a little bit more different. Before I talk about what we'll be cooking, I wanted to spend a moment talking about dressings, and all the recipes are available. We have a document. So I grew up not really using dressings. My mom would put a little bit of lemon or lime juice and a little bit of black pepper and salt, and that was our dressing, and I like it. It makes the ingredients taste fresh. In the document, I have some other ideas for dressings. I love miso, and if you blend miso with some black sesame seeds, great source of calcium, maybe some citrus, maybe strawberries, you can make some really nice dressings, and you can look at the document for some information about other dressings. But today, there's 10 of us. We'll be making a farro salad, a Frica salad. What is Frica? Stay tuned. After me, we're going to be making a Turkish salad. Janin is going to be making a Turkish salad. Celery and bean salad. We're going to share our versions of traditional dishes like potato salad and a vegan tuna salad. All of the Food for Life classes and all of the cooks in the kitchen, we're vegan and whole food plant-based. There's more. Hawaiian pineapple and rice salad, a Jicama Cherry Salad, a stacked salad, that's coming up. And today I'm going to be making Panzanella. Panzanella is a traditional Tuscan chopped salad with bread. So let's get to it. You can see the variety of ingredients we're using. I'm really excited about showing some of these off. I love tomatoes, and this is a great salad for showing off tomatoes. It's also a great dish for showing off some bread. And here I have a loaf of a whole grain bread, which has a bunch of seeds in it. And the first step, which I'm not going to do, I've already done it, is I would take the bread and I would chop it into about 3/4 inch cubes. All the quantities are in the document. And then what I would do is I would put the bread into a bowl like this one, this empty bowl, and I would put some vinegar or some broth. And here I have some broth. I made some soup yesterday, and I also made a chickpea main course, and I saved the liquid. I said I'm going to need this for making my bread. And so, you know, in the old days, this was one of the favorite dishes. I used to teach this class called Ethnic Vegetarian Cooking, and this used to be a favorite of my students. And it used olive oil. We don't generally use oil in our cooking. It's pure fat, and we found other ways to cook which doesn't require adding extra fat. So in preparation for today, I've been cooking Ponzinella for some years without oil, but I've been making some more experiments. And so instead of oil, you can use some vinegar. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about vinegar. I'm not a vinegar person. I just don't like the taste of vinegar. But I like it in this dish, and I like this particular vinegar. It's called Umi plum vinegar. It comes from plums, and it's really tasty. You can also use this rather thick vinegar, and it's called it's a balsamic glaze, and it goes great. It sticks to the bread nicely. Or you can use a broth. And so what you would do is you would take an empty bowl, and you would put your broth in it, which I'm going to do. And then you would put some garlic in here as well, and some garlic powder. And if you want, a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper. And then you'd put your cubed bread in here and mix it up. Put it on a flat tray. And I like to use parchment paper on my tray. Parchment paper is a nice trick so things don't stick. So get a tray, put your bread on it, and put it in a 350 degrees Fahrenheit oven for about 5 minutes, 4, 5, 6 minutes. Ovens vary, so keep an eye, and bake it. And I've done this earlier today. That's why I'm not doing it now. And here you go. So this is what you get. This is the bread. And you can use different kinds of bread. I like whole grain breads. I like crusty bread. In Italy, they came up with this dish to solve the problem. What do you do with a couple-day-old bread that's getting stale and hard? And so I like baguette. I like good whole grain breads. If you're gluten-free, there are gluten-free breads. One idea I came up with yesterday or day before is I think this would be really good with cornbread. I haven't tried it, but I think it would be a nice twist. I think it would be nice. So that's the first step. My bread has gone in the oven and it's come out. I've let it cool a bit and I put it in a big bowl. And now I just dump. So I'm going to start with some tomatoes. I love sun-gold tomatoes. And here you can see a bowl of sun-gold tomatoes. And what I've done with the sun-golds, and again, all the quantities are in the recipe document, is I've halved the sun-gold tomatoes. Sun-golds taste like candy to me. I love sun-gold tomatoes. So I'm going to dump the tomatoes in. There we go. I'm going to dump in some onion. And one of the tricks for this, actually, before I dump the onion, I'm going to add vinegar. Okay. So again, I generally don't like vinegar, but it goes great with a bread salad. So I'm going to sprinkle some vinegar, and I've given the quantities. But you know what I do is I do it by sight. I look at how much vinegar seems right to me, but I know many of you want quantities, and it's all in our recipe document. But I'm going to put some vinegar, and my goal is to make sure the bread gets moistened and softened. You can let this sit. One idea is to cover it, put it in the refrigerator for half an hour or an hour, let the flavors marinate. I find that when I do that, sometimes the bread gets a little too soft. So this is fine to just make it, let it breathe for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then serve it. Okay, so far, tomatoes. And what you can do also is add other kinds of tomatoes. So I love green zebra tomatoes. So I've already chopped some green zebra tomatoes. In they go as well. You can get all varieties of tomatoes. I like heirloom tomatoes. Some of my favorites are green zebra, Cherokee purple, which I don't have. I like yellow tomatoes. They're lower in acid. Some people find tomatoes are a little bit too acidic, and red. In hindsight, I should have cut some red to add some extra color, but in the interest of time, I won't add the red tomato. Actually, I will. Let me chop a tomato. Okay, so let's get this tomato going. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to chop the tomato into rather large slices, maybe 3/8 inches, ½ inch, something like that. And I'm going to toss these tomatoes in. For the color, so, color is important. I have to tell you a story. When I was dating, before I met my wife, I did some online dating, and people would meet me and would offer to send their picture. And I always said, don't send your picture, because for humans, what's important is what's inside you. And I'm also a photographer, and I find everybody pretty. So to me, I find people, animals pretty, but food isn't always pretty. And so one really important thing for me with food is to get it to look as nice as possible. And so using different colors makes the dish more appealing. And also, you're getting some health benefits, because generally with all these natural colors, this means that the foods are high in phytochemicals, which are disease-fighting properties. So look at that red. I'm so glad I did that. I'm going to add some bell pepper. So I chopped a yellow bell pepper. In goes the bell pepper. It's looking promising so far. There goes the bell pepper. I'm going to add some olives, and I used 2 kinds of olives. I used green olives. I like green olives. And I also used Kalamata olives as well. Now be careful, because olives may not be pitted. In fact, these are not pitted. So even if you buy olives that claim to be pitted, I like to cut them in half to make sure there's no pit. So there go the green olives. Once I visited Italy, and we were staying at a vegetarian and vegan inn, and we were surrounded by something like 10,000 olive trees. It was so exciting. Is that looking nice or what so far? And we're not even done. Okay. You can add some garlic at this point. I'm not going to add garlic. There was some garlic when I cooked the bread down, when I cooked the bread in the oven. But I am going to add 2 kinds of onions, and you can see there's a lot of choices here. Let's talk for a minute about onions. I like red salad onions. I'm not a big fan of strong onions, so I prefer onions like this. This is a sweet Vidalia onion. I like Vidalia onions, and I really like shallots. If you've not cooked with shallots, I recommend them. They're kind of a cross between onion and garlic, and they have a really nice flavor. So shallot, and of course there's garlic. So these are all in the allium family, and they have many good health properties. So what I'm going to do is I've cut the red onion in a half moon. I like half moons. Sometimes I chop them. Okay, so I'm going to put the red onion in. I'm going to add also, I didn't use any sweet onion, but I did use some green onion, which you see sitting right here. So some scallions go well with this. Okay. And then there's a bunch of optional ingredients. One thing I like is I always like some fresh citrus. So I'm going to cut this lemon, and I'm going to just do a squeeze. There's no seeds in this part. I did less than half, but sometimes you can put your hand over it to kind of keep the seeds out. So lemon gives a nice fresh flavor. So let's squeeze some lemon or lime. Everything, I prefer organic, and everything here is organic. I'm going to sprinkle some hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are great sources of omega-3s. They taste nutty. They're really good. So I'm going to just sprinkle some hemp seeds onto my salad. Really, in Tuscany, they would put leftover, bread, and then other vegetables, fruits. Tomatoes are actually fruits. Let's see, you could add capers. I like capers, but sometimes they're a little too salty, and with the 2 kinds of olives, I'm not going to add the capers, but you can. Capers are nice. You can also add some salt. I'm going to add some black pepper. I'm not going to add salt. I tend to salt very low, and then at the table, I think people can, of course, make it their own and add salt as they wish. I like lower salt. Some garlic powder. I'm almost out, but I have enough for this dish, so there goes some garlic powder. So a little bit of garlic powder. I'm going to add some lemon pepper. I know I added black pepper, but a little lemon pepper is also nice. And then, I'm going to add some herbs. I'm going to have a little bit of oregano. You have to be careful with these ingredients. You don't want to over spice things. So just a little bit of oregano. But I'm going to add now some basil. My daughter picked for me from our garden a bunch of basil. So I'm going to do a chiffonade of basil. I'm going to grab a bunch of basil and roll it up, and then just slice through it. So, make them cigars. Okay, I'm going to throw the basil in. You can't have too much basil, so let's use more. Herbs are great. I don't know if any of you guys follow Michael Greger, nutritionfacts.org. He had an article. His website is excellent. A lot of great evidence-based nutrition, as we do in Food for Life through the Physicians Committee. He had an article about herbs not that long ago and talking about all the benefits of herbs. Okay, so there you go. And then I'm going to add some artichoke hearts. They go great with this dish as well. And I wanted to take a moment and talk about them. I do most of the shopping. I do most of the cooking at home as well. But my wife was out, and I asked her to get some artichoke hearts. I like the water-packed artichoke hearts. You don't need oil in the artichoke hearts. But there's this brand I really like called Monterey Farms, and she brought these Artie Hearts, which are also good. Now, they do have a little bit of oil, but if I read the nutrition facts of this, 1 serving of artichoke hearts here has 1.5 grams of fat. So it's reasonably modest, and I feel comfortable using it. And I've used just a very small quantity. So this is a prepared artichoke heart, but using fresh artichokes or water-packed would be what I'd usually do. So here come the artichokes. And then the only thing else that I might add, you could add avocado if you want. I have some avocado here. I'm not going to use the avocado today. but I am going to add cucumber, and I didn't cut the cucumber in advance because I wanted to show you a trick. So my mom and dad are immigrants from India, and growing up, my mom taught me something, and I don't know, it's a superstition, I don't know if there's something to it, but my mom would say that cucumber can have poison in it. And there is a class of foods that includes cucumber and some squashes that can be lightly poisonous, certain varieties. And so I think there's some truth to it. This is what my mom taught me. It's a superstition. She said, when you cut cucumber, you cut the end off, and then you make a tic-tac-toe grid, and you take the end you cut off, and you rub. And sometimes you'll see some white, kind of like pus coming out, which I don't see now. And that is the quote-unquote poison, according to my mom. So to honor my mom, I always do that with cucumber. And I'm simply going to cut the cucumber, and I want to make cubes. So I like the cucumber seeds. A lot of chefs remove the seeds, remove the skin. I buy organic. If you're using a cucumber that is not organic, I do recommend removing the skin. Okay? So I'm going to leave the seeds in, and there goes some cucumber. And in the recipes, I've included other ingredients you can add. Green peas would be nice with this. But that's about it. Let's take a look at the finished product. And I could have added the whole cucumber, but in the interest of time, I'm not. So check this out. Panzanella Italian Bread Salad. Easy peasy. I didn't show you live preparing the bread, but it's not difficult. And that's all there is to it. Now, this bread was a little bit hard this morning when I worked on it, but I can already tell with the vinegar, it's softening. And so I'm not going to serve it this moment. I'm going to let it sit for a good 5-10 minutes. If I let it sit for 45 minutes or an hour, the bread will start getting soggy, and I don't like that. But that's it. It's ready to be served. Your guests can add a little bit of salt if they want. But I find with the olives and if you add capers, it probably doesn't need salt. I'd rather let folks salt it by themselves. So that's it. Please post any questions. I will be back looking at questions coming in. Other cooks in the kitchen are responding to questions right now. But with that, I'm excited to introduce our second cook today. That's Janen Orhun. She's in the Middle East. She's in Abu Dhabi, and she's originally from Turkey. She's going to be preparing a simple Turkish salad. Take it away, Janen.
Hi, Dilip. Wow, what a nice salad. And welcome once again to Saturday Night Live in Abu Dhabi. Here I am in my kitchen. I loved listening to Dilip's wonderful Panzanella salad. And I'm with you, Dilip. I like the seeds in the cucumber, so mine are chopped with the seeds in. Good evening, everybody. And salads is our topic tonight. And one of the regions in Turkey that I love the cuisine most of is the southeastern part. Although I don't come from there, I often on this show share recipes from the southeast region. Perhaps the salads, why they sort of appeal to me is the fact that they're really on the sweet and sour side. They love their salads tangy, and I like that too. So this salad has got really humble ingredients: tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, onion, lemon, and some walnuts, parsley. I've already chopped my veggies for the sake of time this evening. So one of the tricks about this salad is to keep the cucumbers, tomatoes, and peppers as much as possible the same size. So here are my tomatoes already chopped. I put them in a big bowl. And here you can see my cucumbers and peppers. The recipe, when you check it out online, you'll notice it says a green pepper. Well, shopping the other day, I couldn't find sweet, long green peppers, so therefore I opted for the beautiful yellow ones. They add color to the salad and more phytochemicals, as Dilip was mentioning. So here I put my cucumbers and my peppers in there as well. And look at these colors. It's just already looking beautiful. And then the salad calls for an onion. And like Dilip, I prefer red onions in my salads or sweet vidalias. I don't like the really pungent taste of onion. And one of the tricks you can do is to chop your onions and put a little bit of salt and sort of rub them in and leave them aside before using them. That takes that really pungent taste away. So here's my veggies. I'm giving them a little mix. And the recipe also calls for 100 grams of walnuts. That's about a cup. So I dump in my chopped walnuts as well and mix them nicely. And there's a half a bunch of fresh flat-leaved parsley, and that goes in there as well. Look at these colors. You gotta have colors in your cooking. So this is all the veggies. As you see, this wasn't very hard. Basically, you spend about maximum 10 minutes chopping your ingredients, and this is where you get to. And then the dressing, in the recipe, I say that you should mix your lemon juice with pomegranate molasses and the sumac. I just wanted you to see the sumac. It's a wonderful spice, comes from a plant, like most of them. It's got beautiful color. So basically, I'm lazy and I don't want to dirty more things. So I put my lemon juice and I put 2 tablespoons of pomegranate molasses. And this is a sweet and sour taste. It's just awesome. That's why I like my Southeastern cooking. Sorry, I'm gonna lick my finger. And the sumac, it goes in there. And a pinch of salt. You can adjust it, add no salt or a little salt. And you give it a nice mix. And your salad is ready. Before serving, if you're serving it on individual bowls, you can also add some larger pieces of walnuts for decoration. I have them here for right now. This salad, you noticed how quickly it's done. And the beautiful colors, the phytochemicals that Dilip talked about, this is sort of like a immune booster. It's like a full of vitamins and minerals. It's like a bomb to get your immunity up. Tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, walnuts. I'm looking at my list here. Pomegranate molasses, they're all rich in antioxidants. This mixture is full of vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin Bs. And then the walnuts are really high in minerals, magnesium, zinc, selenium, potassium, omega-3s. And then maybe I hear you saying, but lycopene from tomatoes, don't you need oil for better absorption of lycopene or the vitamin A's? The whole of these walnuts, 50% of their calories come from healthy oils. So don't worry about adding any super processed, nutrient-free, calorie-high oils. Use your walnuts or other nuts for better absorption of your vitamins, which are oil soluble, such as the vitamin A and vitamin E and vitamin K as well. Another thing about the pomegranate molasses, I'm lucky that here I was able to find an amazing 100% one ingredient pomegranate molasses, and that's the trick. Please take the time, find near you a Middle Eastern shop or a Turkish shop and get yourself a really good quality, 100% only pomegranate syrup. If you see on it pomegranate sauce, that usually indicates that they've added a lot of sugars, thickeners, preservatives. So it's a bunch of things, or they even add caramel flavoring. Whole bunch of things that you don't need. All you need is the one ingredient, pomegranate juice that's been cooked and reduced to a pomegranate molasses. And that's where all the wonderful antioxidants are for you. That's all from me from Abu Dhabi tonight. Before I go, I'd like to let you know that next up is my colleague Debbie Zimmerman from Lakeland, Florida. And she's going to show you another rainbow of colors in her rainbow salad with farro. Take it away, Debbie. Bye from Abu Dhabi.
Thanks, Jonna. And that salad looks great. And today I'm going to be making you a wonderful salad. And we're starting with farro. And if you are not familiar with this, farro is an ancient grain. I absolutely love it. You can see it's brown. But what I love so much about it, it's thicker and it's quite chewy. So it's thicker than rice. And I would say it has the texture of whole grain barley. It is absolutely fabulous. And if you haven't tried it, please put it in your grain arsenal, because certainly it is a way for us to expand our horizon when we're looking at our grains. So with this, I am going to be first adding edamames, and we're all familiar with edamames. You can find them fresh in your produce shelf in the refrigerated area, and you do want to cook them just very slightly, and because they're super great. And edamame, you may know, are a source of soy. And we know that there have been some questions about soy, but yes, they are very, very healthy. And women who have had breast cancer can actually have soybeans, can have edamame. So do not shy away from those edamames. The next thing we are going to do is add some beautiful fresh pineapple. Now, if you don't have fresh, or if fresh is not readily available for you, you can always use frozen pineapple. If you are an athlete, we know that the pineapple has bromine in it, and it is very good for recovery. So always try to add a little bit of pineapple to your day if you are a distant athlete. The next thing we are going to do is add some raisins, and that's just going to be a little bit more sweetness with our pineapple. And the recipe calls for a red pepper, a yellow pepper, and also a bell pepper. I choose to use these small peppers because the recipe calls for only a half a cup, and I would rather use these smaller peppers. There are, of course, a whole lot of colors, and they're much sweeter also. One thing that I am always aware of are some people do not like the bell pepper because they have a tendency to repeat on them. So I always like to use the yellow, orange, and red, and it's a nice blend. Plus, it adds so much color to your bowl. And so here I am adding my red peppers. And then in this bowl, I have orange and yellow peppers. And of course, we know that our peppers are full of vitamin C. And right now with COVID so rampant around, we know that vitamin C is a tremendous antioxidant, and it's just really going to bring out the health. So we can't ever get too much vitamin C, I don't think. Now look how pretty this salad is. And I am going to toss this. And as Dilip and Jonan have mentioned, your vegetables and your fruits have a lot of phytonutrients. And when we add all of these beautiful colors together, we know that we are getting an excellent blend of phytonutrients, an excellent blend of minerals, and it's just a very healthy way to eat. Also, there is no added fat to this recipe. And that's also very nice, because we know that the added fat can cause our immune system to be compromised, too much fat in our diet. And so we know that there's a little bit of fat, but it's all natural fat. And that's what we're looking for. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is combine our salad dressing. And I am using half a cup of, or it's a quarter of a cup of lime juice. And of course, we know that is full of vitamin C. And the next thing I am going to be doing is adding balsamic vinegar. And I have chosen to use a maple infused balsamic vinegar. So it's going to add a different flavor to it. You could have a regular balsamic vinegar, but I do enjoy the maple flavor. So I'm going to add that. And the next thing I am going to do is add some freshly ground pepper. And with this pepper, you may be familiar with the different peppercorns, but I have red in here, white, green, and black. And it's interesting that each of those peppers really does bring out a different flavor. It hits a different part of your tongue, and it really does add pizzazz to your salad or to whatever you are eating. And so I'm just going to stir this up. And then I am going to pour it on my salad. And I am going to toss it once again. And look how beautiful this comes out. Okay, and so the next thing I am going to do, you could add your spinach to this, and you can use spinach or you can use kale. You could add it to the bowl and toss it if the whole salad is going to be eaten right away. But if it's not going to be eaten right away, or if only a small portion is going to be eaten, you can put the spinach in a bowl just like I have, and then put your salad right on top of it. Now, your spinach would not last quite as long as your kale would. So if you want to, you certainly could add kale to this, and it's not going to wilt too quickly. But your spinach, it's much lighter, and it certainly will wilt much faster. So here is our finished product. I want everybody to see. I'm going to get my cameraman to zoom in on it. Cameraman, zoom in, please. Okay, there we go. There's the gorgeous salad. Look at all of the colors. We always want to make sure we have a beautiful rainbow on our plate, and we certainly do today. So I thank y'all for joining us. And now I am going to send it over to Mark Vanik. Sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to botch that. But Mark is up in Chicago, and Mark, I can't wait to see what you're doing on your end.
Great. Hello. Thank you very much, Debbie. Appreciate that. I still have trouble with Cirque Venic once in a while, too, so I'm still practicing it. But, well, good afternoon. I'm Mark Cirque Venic, and I'm here in Chicago, actually a small suburb just southwest of Chicago. And I, too, am doing a ancient grain today, and it is a Frica salad, not a farro salad. That was that was Debbie. I'm doing the Frica salad. So Frica is an ancient grain, and it's actually one of the few grains that is not roasted. It's actually cooked over an open fire, so it gets this charred, smoky flavor. What actually happens is they take a green grain and then roast it over an open fire, and then thrash it in a machine, and it knocks off that outer charred coating, and what's left behind is the whole grain, and it has a very smoky aroma. So it's a very unique grain as well because of that aroma. So pretty easy to cook up some Frica. So you take the dried Frica, you really want to wash it pretty well. I have found, because of the process that they use, there's sometimes still some little charred bits in the package, and you'll put it in some water and boil it. And then what you want to do is this kind of a unique process that I have found works very, very nicely, is you boil the Frica in a pot, and then after it's done cooking, you put a towel on it, and for about 10 minutes, you put the lid back on it and you let it steep in there. What the towel does is it actually absorbs some of the water from the cooking process, so it doesn't fall back into the Frica, and keeps your Frica nice and fluffy. Then you take it off and you let it cool for another 10 minutes, and then you're ready to cook with it. So just a nice little tip that is in the recipe that I've provided as well. So we're going to first of all assemble our Frica salad. This is a really great salad. We love this for the summertime. It does not necessarily need to be refrigerated. In fact, I think it tastes better when it's not refrigerated. But note that you do make it, and let's say you eat it today and then put it in the refrigerator, it will be fine for about 5 to 7 days. But it does not necessarily need to be refrigerated on the day that you make it. So in there goes my Frica. It's about a cup or so. Then I'm going to take a can of chickpeas. I'm going to put those chickpeas right in there. I love chickpeas, the nice creamy texture. I always save my liquid, my aquafaba. You might recall, if you're a follower of our shows back, I think it was in the winter time, I made a whipped cream from the aquafaba. Aquafaba is the viscous liquid. It could be used as a whipped cream, and you whip it up really with a beater, or you could use it as an oil substitute, because all of the cooks for Food for Life cooks all cook without oil. So I saved that, put it in a little container like this, and put it in the refrigerator. I then have my chickpeas. Then I've got some cut up green beans. The recipe calls for a bunch of green beans. I was kind of laughing as I looked at the recipe. Again, I haven't made this for a few weeks, but how much is a bunch? Well, I did about 7 green onions in this recipe. Then some very thinly sliced celery. Put that in there. And we also want to put 3 tablespoons of the celery leaves. A lot of times, I think people just throw those celery leaves out. They have a little bit more of a citrusy, aromatic flavor. This is a very aromatic salad, and we're just beginning to build the aromatics in this salad. Between the smokiness and the citrusiness of the leaves from the celery, we just have a phenomenal aroma salad here. So there's our salad. It's nice and green. It's got some greens and browns, and even the Frica has a little hint of green tinge to it because it is a green grain when they initially put it over an open fire and roast it. So the next thing I'm going to do is assemble my dressing. In with my dressing goes about a half a cup of raisins. I'm going to also put about a half a cup of almonds in there. One of the things we want to be careful of as we're eating whole food, plant-based meals is we do want to be cautious of the fat, especially if you're trying to lose weight, if you're on your initial journey to lose weight. nuts are higher in fat. They're good. They're a good source of omega-3 fatty acids. In fact, we recommend that you do use nuts as a condiment versus sitting there like maybe some of us, present company included, used to when I was 40 pounds heavier, sit there with a big bag of roasted almonds. So we don't want to do that because that's not healthy. But using almonds as a condiment or in a salad dressing adds another level of crunchiness and another aroma as well. So in our dressing, we're also going to add some coriander, and then I'm going to do a couple of garlic. I just love this technique of processing garlic. I learned this technique, oh gosh, many years ago. I was always a fan of Jacques Pepin, the French chef. I think he's like 81 years old now, and he was one of the first celebrity chefs that I started watching back in probably the early 80s, and he had a cookbook on techniques and really how to prepare foods more from a technique standpoint and using knife skills. And one of the knife skills that he taught back in the 70s to America was how to peel a garlic. So all I do is cut off that root end, I press it down with the flat end of my knife, and there you go. Another technique that you can use if you don't feel strong enough or you are a little just shy of the very sharp end, you can use a bench scraper. I love my bench scraper. You do the same thing. You would cut that root end off and just press the garlic down, and you see it really just kind of jumps right out of its skin. It's so excited to get into the salad here. The other thing that this process of smashing the garlic does is, if you can see that, it releases these essential oils. So you kind of see that's the essential oils from the garlic. So it's just another explosion of flavor into the salad. So, so I'm just gonna keep my fingers tucked under because we don't want to another little husk in there. Get that husk out of there. So I'm just gonna keep my fingers tucked under and chop this up really finely, like that. And take my bench scraper and just pick it all right up. I love my bench scraper. It's one of those other little kitchen hacks that I like to share with students as well. So we're just going to stir that in here. And the last ingredient I'm going to add are preserved lemons. It's 3 tablespoons of preserved lemons. The process to preserve lemons is also included with my recipe. It might be something that you're not familiar with, but essentially what it is you take lemons and you really cut them up into quarters like this and push salt in there. So you're basically pressing salt in there along with all the juices of the lemons. You put this in a jar, and in about 3 weeks, the preserved lemons are ready. And you'll see that it's a little bit of lighter color. The recipe that I've included on preserving lemons is for Meyer lemons, but these are just regular lemons. So what the preserving process does is it does a couple things. Obviously preserves them so they last longer in the jar. Salt was one of the original preservatives that was used way before refrigeration was ever invented. But it preserves it, and it also mellows the flavor a little bit. You actually can eat the entire rind as well, as the pulp of the lemon. So I've just chopped up about 3 tablespoons of that. When you do use the preserved lemons, you'll want to make sure you pull out the seeds, because the seeds are really quite tart and bitter, not very tasty, despite the process of preserving them. And the last thing that's going to go in my dressing itself is going to be some white vinegar. I like white vinegar because it's a really fresh and bright flavor. This dish is all about kind of contrast of flavors and depth of flavors between the smokiness and the garlic and the lemon and onions and the citrusiness of the lemons, as well as the citrusy taste of the celery leaves. And then you just mix all this up really, really good. Now, this is a salad that, again, does not necessarily need to be refrigerated. In fact, I think it tastes better when it's a little warmer or even at room temperature, actually. You want to let this salad sit for about an hour for all the flavors to bloom, and then enjoy. You can enjoy this certainly with the summer with maybe a lettuce wrap, on a lettuce wrap, or just as sometimes I'll just eat this just as my main dish, and then follow it up with a piece of fruit and a big, nice cold glass of water in the summertime. So there's our Frica salad. I hope you'll try it. Thank you very much. Please visit me at letseatgreat.com. Or if you'd like to travel with me, we're doing a couple trips here in the spring and the fall at Vegan Johnson Journeys, and all that information is in the recipe in my bio, as well as I know it's been at the bottom of the screen here a couple times as well. So thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn it over to Susanna Dickman. Take it away, Susanna.
Thanks, Mark. That looks great. Hi, I'm Susanna Dickman from Evansville, Indiana. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm so excited to be making a potato salad today. Growing up, my grandmother came from Poland and settled in Chicago, and she used to make the best potato salad. But of course, it wasn't plant-based. There were eggs and bacon, and not only bacon, but she always told me her secret ingredient was putting in maybe 4 or 5 tablespoons of the bacon grease. I remember that potato salad and I loved it. So when I went plant-based, I thought, well, you know, I can't make my grandmother's potato salad, but I found this recipe that just takes me back to being in my grandmother's kitchen and eating potatoes. This recipe calls for, I use red potatoes, and I cut them up, boil them 10-15 minutes until they're tender. You know, you don't want them mushy, you want to make sure they're tender enough so that you'll get some resistance. It also uses a vegan mayo, and I'm going to make that now. So the first ingredients, you know, there are 2 different types of tofu. There's the tofu that's packed in water that we typically will use, and we will press it. And then there is mori tofu, which is called a silken tofu. And this one is perfect for things like vegan mayo, vegan cream cheese. There's even a great pudding you can make with it, but it's more for smooth ingredients. So I'm going to use, and you'll notice I don't drain it. There's a little bit of water coming out, but not that much. So I've got my whole package of mori tofu. I'm going to put some apple cider vinegar. Here I have some salt, garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit of sugar. And then last I'm going to add some some Dijon mustard. So about 2.5 tablespoons. So there's 1, that was a little more than 1. So I'm just going to put a little bit more to make up my half. And that is all for my mayonnaise. I'm going to blend this now, and this will be the mayonnaise base for my potato salad. So let me get this blended. Pretty good. Let me go ahead and get a spatula here. All right. I'm just going to do it a little bit more and get some of that Dijon mustard blended.
I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on with Susanna. There seems to be some internet issues. I wonder if it's from her kitchen. It looks like everything's fine from this end. So Susanna doesn't know, but her video is not being, her live broadcast isn't going through. So I think what we'll do is we will go on to the next presenter, which is, well, let's try to bring her back in, and if it doesn't work, we will go on to Angelita. Angelita, I think some of us are able to see the presentations and some aren't, so I'm not sure what's going on. So let me try to bring Susanna back. If that doesn't work, we'll transition to Angelita, and I apologize for the internet problems.
Thank you, Susanna. Your dish looks amazing. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to try that. Hi, my name is Angelita Alvarez Hughes. I am a Food for Life instructor, and the name of my company is Earth, Seeds, and Water, and I'm located in Greenville, South Carolina. Today I will be making a vegan tuna salad, and what I will be using instead of the tuna is hearts of palm, and I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with them, but I love these. Not only do I use it for my tuna salad, but I also use it as a crab substitute when I'm making my crab patties. I purchased this at Costco, and it's certified organic. I just love this, and actually I just like to eat it straight out of the jar. It's really, really good. Okay, so my recipe is in 3 steps. We've got the spice blend, and this has garlic powder, onion powder, dill, and it has seaweed, the snack size sheets. And I just buy these also at Costco. There's like 10 of them in a pack. So I just use 3 sheets, but feel free to use as many sheets as you want because these are a natural way of getting iodine, excuse me. So I make my spice blend, and then the next step is the dressing. And the dressing is mayonnaise, lemon juice, pickle juice, and it also has deli mustard. Now, not everybody likes deli mustard, so you don't have to use that. You can use regular mustard, but I really enjoy it. It gives it that little zip. So what I do is, you can actually make this a day ahead or 2 days ahead and keep it in the refrigerator. when I'm storing something like this, I usually store it in a glass container, not in a plastic container. I do mix it in a plastic container, but for some reason I just like the glass containers as storage. So you're going to mix your mayonnaise, and just a quick, goodness, I'm lost for words. Quick update on the recipe. I put lemon juice with the spice blend. That does not go with the spice blend. That goes with the mayo blend, with the dressing blend. Okay, so it's all mixed up. Now we're going to take our spice blend and we're going to pour it right into the mayonnaise. And I just bought this little spice blender on Amazon. I think I paid like $19 for it. It comes in so handy. So I have one for my spices, and then I have another one for coffee. Because you definitely don't want to grind your coffee beans when you just finished grinding something like this. Okay, so now that all this is mixed together, it's just a beautiful color. I'll bring it up to you guys so you can see it. So the longer it sits, the more the flavors infuse. All right, and so here in my bowl, I have celery, I have onion, and I have the hemp hearts. And I just use a big fork to mix this because I want to try to keep it intact so it'll mimic tuna. So here it is. This is what it looks like. And it's 2 cups of hemp hearts, and I cut it in 4s, and then I sliced it. And then it's half a cup of diced red onion that I rinsed under cold water, and it's half a cup of celery. Now you can add as much or take away, you know, it's something, this is just a suggestion of how I make it. But if you know that you're not going to eat something like that, then don't put it in there. Try something else. And some people like pickles in their tuna salad. I don't, but I do like the flavor, so that's why I use the pickle juice. So now that we have this mixed up, we're just going to pour the dressing over the entire thing. And this will keep in your refrigerator for about 3 to 4 days. It's perfect for wraps, also for sandwiches. You can bake it in little crescent rolls. And you can take them on picnics or if you're traveling. And all you do is just blend it until everything's well incorporated. I suggest you keep it in the refrigerator for at least a couple of hours to let everything really marinate. And then you're ready to serve. And also you can keep it overnight. You can make it the night before and then serve it the next day. So this is what it looks like. And it's creamy. It's the hemp hearts are really soft and they kind of disintegrate in your mouth when you bite them. They're delicious. You can serve it in a little cocktail, like a shrimp cocktail glass with some saltine crackers. And I mean, just use your imagination. I love this stuff. And if you have some left over and you're like, okay, I really don't want another tuna salad sandwich, what you can do is add some breadcrumbs to it and then make patties, stick them in your air fryer at 375 for about 5 to 8 minutes and just kind of flip them halfway through, and then you can have some tuna patties with that. All right, well, thank you so much for spending today with us. We really appreciate it. And coming up next is this amazing celery and bean Italian salad. I can't wait to see what this is about. I love celery and I love beans. So thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Hi, thank you, Angelita. Your tuna salad, your no tuna salad looks delicious. Today, I'm going to be making an Italian celery and bean salad. By the way, my name is Suzanne Fellows, and I'm coming to you from Farmington Hills, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. And today, my Italian salad recipe is a copycat of one of my favorite local restaurants. And they serve it as an appetizer. When you first sit down, they bring it over with some crispy breadsticks, and it is absolutely delicious. They place oil in theirs, and being that I try to avoid oils, I went ahead and sort of made a copycat using just the broth from the beans, or the brine that the beans sit in from the can. So the first step you're going to do is go ahead and drain your beans over a measuring cup. And I already went ahead and drained the beans and placed them into a bowl. And I had about 3/4 of a cup of liquid from the beans, and I went ahead and used the measuring cup and just poured out what I didn't need. So in this container is just a 1/2 cup of the brine from the beans. And keep in mind that beans do contain a bit of salt. So you'll see that the ingredients does not call for any additional salt. And after I drained the beans, I even rinsed them and then just discarded that water that I rinsed. But I don't add any additional salt because it's really not needed. But of course, go ahead and you can use low salt beans if you're on a salt restrictive diet. And you can also add salt if you're not on a restrictive diet and you want a little bit more flavor. You can always adjust it once everything's been marinated. So the first step, as we discussed, was creating that brine and that broth. And so while that's draining, I go ahead and chop all my vegetables. So here I have about 4 or 5 big stems of parsley. And you'll see that this is about 1 stem's worth. And so I use about 4 or 5 of them. And I cut off the big thick stem and I just use the top bunch. And there's a little bit of stems in there, but it's not a big deal. And the best way to chop them is to kind of squeeze them together and then just finely chop and just work your way across, keeping the point of your knife down, and then just keep rebunching the parsley into your hands, and obviously being very careful not to cut your fingers, and kind of pulling rolling the knife up and down, and then you can go ahead and turn the direction at which you're chopping to get a nice fine chop. You just want to chop that down a bit, and then you can add it to the bowl. And my next step is to use this handy dandy chopper that I have used before on the show, if you've ever seen it before. And it's this great chopping device. And it comes with a couple different blades, so you can get a fine chop or a thicker chop. This is the fine chop here. And I already went ahead and pre-measured my celery. So I have 1 cup that's finely chopped, and the red onion that's also finely chopped. But I am going to go ahead and just demonstrate this device to you. So if you clean your celery beforehand, cut off both ends, and then you can kind of chop this down just so it's about 2-inch pieces. And then you place them upside down onto the blade, and then you set it down and you just chop. And it makes a really nice fine chop. And it's also really quick and easy to do, and also really fun for kids. And it's a great way to get them to cook with vegetables. So I went ahead and did that with the onion, the celery, the parsley, and the beans are now in the bowl. And now we're going to make our dressing. And our dressing calls for the 1/2 cup of the broth from the beans. You can either cheat like I do sometimes and use a pure lemon, not from concentrate, pre-juiced lemon. Or you can always juice your own lemon depending on the time that you have available. So we'll use about 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And again, if you don't like your dressing as tart, the next time you make it, you can always vary that so that it works out. 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, a teaspoon of maple syrup, or you can use 2 teaspoons of maple syrup to sort of counteract that acid from the lemon juice. A couple teaspoons of Dijon mustard. Oops. That's about 1, and then here's another. And about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And this is about 1/4. I know that I tend to enjoy a little bit more pepper, so I gave it a little bit of a heaping 1/4 teaspoon there. And then you just screw on your lid. I'm using a little NutriBullet to mix this up. You can also just use a shaker if you wish. The other thing I like to do is, let's say I'm using the beans for something else. I do still save the liquid to make this dressing, because as you can tell, I'll even store it in a shaker container, but it has this really beautiful creamy appearance, and it's really delicious on any salad. I'm going to go ahead and mix this up. And then I let it marinate. Overnight is ideal. 6 hours minimum is okay to use. And I just place it in the fridge with a lid. And I let it sit overnight and then serve it. And this makes a great salad topper for an additional entree salad, or like I said, we use it as an appetizer with some crackers or breadsticks. And it's super, super healthy. Parsley is a great antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. It has a lot of fiber, vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin C. Beans are also filled with fiber, so they're very filling. It's a great way to start off your meal, so maybe you don't eat the rest so much of everything else. It is just a delicious salad, and celery is also like a superfood. It has a high water content, soluble and insoluble fiber, and even just 1 cup of celery has about 5 grams of fiber. So it's really a great way to start a meal. I hope you'll enjoy. I hope you will try it and make it at home and serve it to your friends and family, as I do. And I'm going to pass this over to Karen. Take it away, Karen.
Thanks, Suzanne. That looks delicious. We are eating the rainbow today, aren't we? So I have something very simple today. By the way, I'm Karen Osborne in Austin, Texas, myfoodfitnessandfun.com. And what I'm going to show you today is just something purely for fun. It's a stacked salad, and you can do it with any ingredients you choose. I'm choosing to do a black bean mango salad, but you could do this with a lot of the salads you're seeing today. So we start digestion with our eyes, right? I mean, it starts the salivary juices flowing. You're going to break down, get enzymes going to break down what you're eating. I'm going to just lower my screen so you can see the different colors. And this is just kind of a different way to serve a salad. And it gives it some texture, some form. But look at the colors. This is just a very simple salad that I'm demonstrating this with. So and I'm making enough for 1 person because it's just me eating this. But the recipe is for 4 people, or 4 stacks, and you can make 8. The dressing makes enough for 8, or enough to decorate your plate when you're done. So what we're going to do is I'm starting with these the molds, But you don't have to have a mold. You can take a can of beans and clean it out and remove the top and the bottom, do something like that. I'm just going to stick it on my plate. And then I have a cup, let's see, I don't know. I did a quarter of this recipe. I did the romaine, I'm going to put on the bottom. And then I'm going to do some black beans. So we're having all kinds of colors, all kinds of phytonutrients. I'm going to mash the beans just a little bit. So obviously, if you're going to make it for a lot of people, you need bigger bowls. So by mashing the beans, I'm going to mix a little bit of the dressing in there and let it flavor the beans. Then I have some tomatoes and some mangoes, lots of vitamin C and beta carotene. Everything's good full of fiber. I'm going to top it with some cilantro. That's good for pulling heavy metals and toxins out of your body. So first I'm going to make the dressing. I'm just going to pour, I have one Roma tomato chopped, just roughly chopped. We're going to blend it. And then a cup of fresh mango. If you can't get fresh, you can use frozen. And this makes a good salad dressing too, just for any kind of green salad. All right. So basically, that's the dressing. I'm going to put in a little bit of lime juice. You can put more or less, depending on how tart you like it. I have chipotle powder and garlic granules. The garlic granules taste a little more cooked than the fresh. The fresh would give you more of a bite. You can use whatever you prefer. The way the recipe is written, it's going to give you a mild smoky flavor with the amount of chipotle powder that I put in there. It's just a jalapeno pepper that's been smoked and dried and powdered. But I put like twice as much because I like the heat. The recipe is just a guide. You can do, what you like. That's the beauty of making your own food. And then I'm going to put a little bit of salt in there. You can certainly leave it out if you're not using salt. And that's it. So the mango and the tomatoes have pectin, and the more you blend it, the thicker it's going to get. So that's going to make the dressing. So I am going to, let's see if I can mute myself and just blend a little bit. Okay, so now it's nice and thick. And I don't know if you can see how thick it is. It's a really tasty dressing. All right, so what I'm going to do is take just a little bit of this and put it in each one of my bowls. So you don't want to put too much because too much liquid is going to seep out around the bottom of your form. But putting a little bit of dressing in each one and then stirring it up is going to kind of hold it together and keep it from falling apart when you stack it. And it's going to give it flavor. All right, I might put a little more in the beans. It's going to be yummy. And then just stir each one. Yummy mangoes. So you have something sweet, you have something tart. I've got a little salt in there. Then the pungent spices. It's going to make your tongue happy. I think I could use a little bit more, but I'm not. Let's see how that works. All right. And then the beans, just mix that up, mash them a little bit more. You still want some texture in here. And then you just start stacking. All right, so I'm going to place the mold in the middle of the plate and just pour in my greens. Might have overdone that. And then press them down. So you can press it. I had a press, but I couldn't find it. I'm going to use the tamper from my juicer. You could use the tamper from your Vitamix. You could use a carrot, the fat end of a carrot, if that's all you have. And then I'm going to put the beans in. So you want the heavier things at, towards the bottom. Put in those beans. And press it down. And then I'm just going to put the tomatoes in. And another thing you could do with the tomatoes that would make this yummy is just dice real thin a little bit of red onion and add it to the onion. Add it to the tomatoes. That's really good. But I'm just showing you the technique. And then I'm going to put the mangoes on top. Press it down a little bit more. Now, if you if you had 4 or 8 of these ring molds, you could just stack them on the plate and just have an assembly line here. Let your kids help you. It's really fun. Then I'm gonna, if you wanted to serve it in a few hours, you could just put it in the refrigerator like this and then unmold it right before you eat. I'm gonna just top it with cilantro, but if some people hate cilantro, some people love it. You don't have to use cilantro. You could use parsley. You could use any kind of sprouts. And then you just gently remove the mold. And you have a really pretty first course or second course. Have a soup and a salad for your dinner parties or just for your family dinners. So thanks for watching. I hope you'll enjoy that and just try it and have fun with it. I'm going to turn this over to Carolyn May Strickland in Montgomery, Alabama. And
that's so cool, Karen. I love that. Do you think if you didn't have a mold, you could use like an empty can and just take the top and the bottom off?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I don't have a mold like that, but I have cans. So,
yeah, that works.
Okay. That's so cool. Thank you. All right. Welcome to Montgomery. And I am making today a Hawaiian rice salad. So when I was little, I lived in Hawaii. My dad was in the Air Force and we lived all over the place. But one of my favorite places to live was Hawaii. And so I lived there for about 3 years when I was little. I love tropical fruits and I love any flavors that remind me of my time in Hawaii. So today I'm making Hawaiian rice salad with brown rice and some fresh chopped pineapple. You can see I've already cut the bottom off of this one. So we're going to start with the rice. So I have brown rice. It's 1 cup of brown rice that's already been rinsed and drained. And then I'm going to make it in the Instant Pot. Now, if you don't have a pressure cooker, you could just do it on your stovetop and that's fine. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of dried rice and add it to the pot. And then if you're making it in an Instant Pot, then you just need 1 1/4 cups of liquid. So you don't need 2 whole cups like you would on the stovetop. So this is 1 1/4 cups of vegetable broth, low sodium vegetable broth. And then I'm adding just a 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, which is really a fabulous antioxidant because of the curcumin in it. It's wonderful at cancer prevention and super good thing to incorporate into your diet. So give that a good stir. And then if you're doing it in a pressure cooker, then you want to do it for 22 minutes, 23 maybe. It doesn't take long. So you're just going to bring it up to full pressure, 22 minutes to 23 minutes, and then natural pressure release, then open it. So it doesn't take very long in a pressure cooker. If you're doing it on your stovetop, it's going to take about 45 minutes. So I'll set that aside and show you that I have already made rice. And you see how yellow it is because of all that turmeric in it. So we'll set that aside for just a second. I'll get out my big bowl. Okay, so all summer long, I taught cooking classes for children at the YMCA. And the kids, I realized after a few weeks that the kids knew what apples and oranges were, and they knew what bananas were, and most of them knew what grapes were. But beyond that, some of the fruits they had never tried before, like kiwi and mango and fresh pineapple. So I decided for my last class, we would try some different fruits they'd never tried before. So in this Hawaiian rice salad, we have mango, and there are hundreds of varieties of mango. But in the United States, where most of us Food for Life instructors are, and obviously we have, Food for Life instructors in other countries, but here in North America, we only get a few kinds of mangoes at most grocery stores. So if you're going to go to your average grocery store, they're going to have one or two varieties. The typical one that most people are used to is the Kent variety. There's another variety which is delicious called and I had to look up how to pronounce this, but it's Atulfo, the Atulfo mango, also known as honey mango, which is really, really good. These aren't quite ripe enough yet to use, so I'm going to use this Kent mango. And my recipe calls for one whole mango chopped up in the rice salad. So one of the things that I found to be really hilarious when I was working with the kids was what they thought was a magic trick with mangoes. So I was just cutting the mango how I usually do, and they were all amazed and dazzled. So I'm going to talk about how to cut a mango. So if you look at the mango and you see the stem end on the top, and then look for where it's the narrowest, the pit is going to run up and down that direction. It's easier to see on the Atulfo mango because it's a narrow mango. That's wider and that's more narrow. The pit is going to run up and down this direction. So you want to cut down next to the pit, slice down past it. So we start at the top, the stem end, and keep my fingers out of the way. And then cut right through here, right down next to the pit. So the pit is on the inside of there still, and this has no pit in it. And then we just make little slices, not all the way through. So just down to the skin, and then pop it open. Whoa, this one was not quite ripe. Pop it open, and it looks so pretty when you pop it open like that. The kids were just amazed at this, and they kept saying, do it again, do it again. So they wanted to watch me cut up as many mangoes as they could. And then they ate them too, so that was good. All right, so we'll move that out of the way. And then into our big bowl, we're going to add the already cooked rice. And once you've cooked the rice and you want it to cool a little faster, you could lay it out like this on a cookie sheet. And I've just lined the sheet with waxed paper. And then I'm going to pick that whole thing up and dump it in the bowl. All right, so this is the cooked and cooled rice. That is nice and bright yellow because of the turmeric. And then we'll have I'm going to go ahead and make the dressing. So the dressing is 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Depending on the size of your lemons, that's going to be probably 1.5 to 2 lemons. For me, that was about 1.5 lemons fresh squeezed. You could use bottled lemon juice if you want to. I think the flavor is a little better with fresh. And then 2 tablespoons of fresh pineapple juice. So that wasn't hard to do. Pineapple can be really, really juicy. And in fact, I got the juice when I cut the bottom off of this one and just kind of squeezed it until I got pineapple juice out. So it's a great way to just use your fresh pineapple and just squeeze it, and you're going to get some pineapple juice out. 1 clove of minced garlic that I've already cut up. We'll add that. So we're going to let that sit just for a second to let the garlic infuse into it. And then just a dash of iodized sea salt You can leave this out if you're on a low sodium diet, but remember, if you are adding salt, make sure it's iodized, and just a dash and some fresh cracked black pepper. Okay, and an optional ingredient is, I can't remember if I listed this as optional or not. I think I did, but the agave nectar. So taste your pineapple, taste your mango. If it's really tart and not very sweet, you could add a little bit of agave nectar. A teaspoon or two should do it. Give that a stir, and we'll just let that sit aside for just a second to let all those flavors marry in there. All right, so we have 1 cup of fresh chopped pineapple, 1 whole mango that I already cut up. Mangoes are so good for you. Mangoes are just rich in vitamin C, beta carotene, magnesium, potassium. They actually help lower your blood pressure. They are really high in folate. So really good thing to incorporate into your diet. All right, so far we have, oh, there's my spoon. So far we have the rice, the pineapple, and the mango. We're adding in a 1/3 cup of raisins. You could use golden raisins or dark raisins, either way. And then 1 stalk of fresh chopped celery, about a 1/2 cup or so of cucumber, and this is a cucumber out of my backyard, which we did take the seeds out of because when we cut it open, they were really big and kind of hard. So we went ahead and pulled those out. Normally I don't take the seeds out, but we did today with that one. Probably our last cucumber of the season because it's September now. And also just for some crunch, some toasted slivered almonds. And slivered almonds are the ones that look like little matchsticks and not the ones that are sliced little, flat looking ones. So the ones that look like little matchsticks are the ones you want. Slivered almonds, and then pop those in. And that's already looking really pretty, very colorful. And then I'm adding a couple of tablespoons of fresh minced cilantro, which, as you just heard from, I think it was Karen who mentioned that fresh cilantro is really good for you. So we're going to add that in and give that a stir. And if you don't like cilantro, you could use parsley. Mint actually might be a really nice flavor too, so you could try that. But I think cilantro just tastes really good with this. Okay, and then the dressing has probably sat long enough, so give that a stir and pour the juice over it. Oh, this is so good. Okay, oh, it smells so good and so tropical. Love it. All right, and then as one little added touch, which is optional, you could scoop it up into a bowl to serve. It doesn't really have to sit aside. The flavors are really mingled in there already. And then put it into a bowl to serve it. And then sprinkle a little bit of toasted shredded coconut on top because it's Hawaiian rice salad and it's not Hawaiian without coconut. So we're going to add a little toasted coconut to the top. Ooh, that looks so good. All right. And then close your eyes, take a big bite, put your toes in the sand and hear the big waves crashing, and imagine you're in Hawaii as you take your first big bite of your tropical Hawaiian rice salad. It is so good and there's no oil. It's just a fabulous salad. So I hope you give it a try. And remember, our recipes are all on the document attached to the video on our page, So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. And next up, I'm going to introduce you to Cody Stubbe. So take it away, Cody.
Wow, thanks, Carolyn. Your Hawaiian pineapple and rice salad looks fresh and delicious, doesn't it, Nora? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, welcome everyone to my kitchen, Omaha, Nebraska. I am Cody Stubbe. I'm a registered nurse and I'm a Food for Life instructor. And this is my lovely 5-year-old daughter, Nora. And say hi. Hi. And today, you're going to help me make what?
Not saying none of it. Jicama salad.
Yes, Jicama Cherry Salad. Woohoo! We're excited. Okay, so you're probably wondering, what is a jicama? Were you wondering that?
Yeah, it's us with jicama.
Yes, it does. So jicama sounds like you're saying hiccups, right? But it's not, right?
Yeah, it's like almost those two jicamas.
So it's a globe-like shape, and it's a root vegetable. It's originally grown in Mexico, but eventually it spread to the Philippines and the Asia locations. And it's got golden brown skin on the outside. So I actually cut this one in half, and then I peeled the outside and I started chopping it up here. So these are usually pretty big. So, yep, I chopped it up. Okay, so let me show you here, right? We want to kind of get these chopped up in kind of sticks, right? So I already sliced it one way, and then I started slicing it up and down. So let me just finish this up here like so. You want to keep your fingers back, right, Nora?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially you, huh? Do kids use knives?
Nope.
No, only if you got special gloves on, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna go this way. So these are kind of like little stick shapes, aren't they? You want to hold one up and show me what it looks like?
It's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's tiny and you are so far away from us.
So these are juicy and crisp on the inside, right? Kind of starchy like a potato, and it kind of tastes like a, you can eat it, yep, like a cross between a potato and a pear. So they're kind of a really fun addition to many salads. Yep. All right, so jicamas are packed full of nutrients, including nearly about half the amount of the recommended daily requirements for vitamin C, which is a powerful antioxidant. And antioxidants protect against cell damage by counteracting free radicals. So those are the harmful molecules that will cause oxidative stress, and it's been linked to chronic disease. So eating food that is high in antioxidants can help fight oxidative stress and may help decrease chronic diseases. Right, Nora? High five. Yes. All right. So we got our jicama here. It's got a lot of nutrients, like I said, a lot of vitamin C, which is great. It helps with the immune system as well. So we're gonna actually add this to about 2 cups of jicama and about 2 cups of sliced and pitted cherries, right? And you love cherries too, don't you?
Yeah.
Cherries have a lot of antioxidants as well. And
let me show you how you eat them.
oh, you're gonna show everybody how you eat a cherry? Yeah, Nora wanted to show you how to eat a cherry. You took the stem off. Yep. And now are you getting it off the seed? Do you want to chomp on the seed? No? You gotta be careful, right? Because you got, yeah, seeds are really hard. There's one big seed in the middle. So Nora's gonna get all the cherry off the seed, aren't you? And then spit out the seed. That's great. So cherries are awesome because they contain a lot of, like I said, antioxidants and polyphenols. It's a large group of plant chemicals that help fight cellular damage and can also help reduce inflammation, right? I saw you spit that out. That's good. So we're gonna stir this up. Okay, look at this.
This is really hard.
That's a hard stem to get off?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I got a lot of jicama in here. I think I might have just a little bit over 2 cups there, huh? Usually I do about a 50-50 ratio with my cherries and my jicama. Look at the jicama though. You see, is it kind of changing color a little bit? What color is it changing to, do you know?
Fuchsia.
Fuchsia, yeah. Fuchsia, that's incredible. All right, let's stick your seeds over there. Good job demonstrating on how to safely eat a cherry, Nora. What do we have here?
Mint leaves.
Mint leaves. I have about 20 or so mint leaves. We grow them fresh outside in a pot on our front porch, and we love it. And mint leaves are really potent, has a lot of antioxidants, and it's just fresh and delicious. Right, Nora? Do you like to go out there and just eat them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I do too. So now we're going to make the dressing for this, right, Nora?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll sing.
What do we have here? Do you remember? Lemon juice. Lemon juice. It's 1/4 cup freshly squeezed lemon juice. Again, there's some more vitamin C. What are you gonna do with that? Oh, thank you. Okay, and then we want to sweeten that up just a little bit. So you can do 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup, pure maple syrup, right, Nora? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew you were gonna like that. That's okay. And then what do we have here? Do you remember what those are called? Poppy seeds.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. Can we put that down now? Oh, such a good little helper, aren't you? All right. How about you finish that when we're done? Does that sound good?
I already finished.
You already finished. Okay. Can you sprinkle my poppy seeds in there, please? So we're making really just a simple lemon poppy seed dressing, right? Do you want to whisk it for me, please? Yeah, whisk it good. Get that maple syrup stirred up in there, right? Yeah. I think the seeds like to float on top, don't they? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can I take a quick look? Let me see. We get the bottom good. That looks fantastic. Should we dump it on our salad here? You want to lick that? Okay. Do you want to help me dump it too? You just like everything, don't you? Oh boy, that's gonna be good. Oh. Yeah. Now that dressing is optional. You don't have to put it on there. It's just kind of a fun little addition. Poppy seeds are just also kind of fun. The kids like those little seeds, don't you, Nora? Mm-hmm. Does that look good?
Yeah.
Look how the jicama is really kind of taken on some of that cherry juice, and it's gonna kind of turn more fuchsia colored, right?
Yeah, now it's pink.
Yeah, oh, that's looking nice. I dropped a cherry too, you want that? Oh, well, should we serve some up and try it? I guess you're already digging in, aren't you? Yeah, oh my goodness. This is looking great. Especially, you know, having little girls, my girls like pink things. So this is gonna be really a beautiful pink color. And when you stir it again, it's gonna even get pinker. I'm gonna have a bite. This looks great.
So,
that was good. Love it. All right, you want another bite? Yum. So this is great. It can make just a nice little side salad, you know, kind of complement meals. It can be a great snack. It can be a great dessert, right? Thumbs up? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for helping me today, Nora. I appreciate it. All right. And thank you for watching. We appreciate it. And you can find me at Holistic Dish. I have some classes coming up, and you can find Nora on So Many Kids in the Kitchen. Right, Nora? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to pass it on over to Q&A now. All right. Thanks.
bye.
Bye.
All right. What a nice show. So welcome everybody who's been watching, and let's bring, some of the cooks had to go, but we have many of us here. So we will get back together for Q&A. Give everybody a moment. All right. So some nice questions came in, and I have a few of my own. So those of you who joined a little late, we have, this is our program on salads, So Many Salads. And we decided to do this because a lot of people say salads are easy peasy. They're just lettuce and tomatoes and maybe some dressing, store-bought dressing. But I hope we've shown you that salads can be a lot more interesting without putting a lot of work into the dishes. Sometimes, is eating iceberg lettuce good? It's fine. It has a little bit of fiber, I guess, but you can easily do better. And one hint is to use darker green leaves. So one question I wanted to start with was dressing. So Kathy Sabo, I don't know if you're still on, but Kathy early on had asked about a specific brand called Primal Kitchen. She's been buying this dressing, and she called it the bomb. She loved it. And I have a comment in general, and then I'll pass it to anybody here who would like to share about any information you have about that particular dressing. And I see Judith has a new question, which we'll answer in a moment. But I grew up, my parents didn't really use dressing. My mom didn't use dressings. When she'd make salad, she'd put a little bit of fresh lime or lemon juice, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And I like that. It keeps the salad nice and fresh. I find oftentimes when you add dressings, it weighs down the salad and adds flavors and frankly fat that you don't need. So I'm not a fan of dressings. That said, our recipe document, and I'll put it up again, the link to it. Our recipe document does have, in my section, I have some descriptions of dressings I've used. For example, sometimes I'll blend up miso with, I like black sesame seeds. They're a great source of calcium. So maybe miso and black sesame seeds and maybe some tangerine. And that's about it. This is a practically no added fat, lovely dressing, which adds a nice flavor. So let me turn it over to somebody else who has used this particular or other commercial dressings, Primal Kitchen. Is anybody here familiar with that brand? Would like to talk about that?
Not familiar.
I've seen it, but I've never tried it. I don't know.
I just know it has oil in it. That's why I've never
Is
tried
that
it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably why I don't use it or aren't even familiar with it. It's like, if it has oil in it or it's interesting. I'm teaching a class on weight loss this week, and we were just talking about reading labels and how you have to be really, really careful when you read labels. And it's not just so much the fat content. We're generally trying to shoot for less than 3 grams of fat per serving on packaged items and on Food for Life endorsed diets. But you want something higher in fiber, but then you've got to read all those ingredients, and a lot of times they'll sneak in, canola oil or even cheese or whey products or casein or so you just have to really read it. I don't know. It's funny though, you said, you grew up eating no dressings. We used to have what I used to call swamp salads. It was Thousand Island dressing and mayonnaise or French, or those are kind of the standards in my house. So I just find that the homemade ones are just way better, and it really blooms the flavors versus masking them. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. And for Kathy, talking about that particular dressing, I would say this, that try other dressings, try no added fat dressings, lemon juice, lime, salt, pepper, herbs add nice flavor. But I'll also say this, if you're eating that particular dressing, and look at the fat content on it, see what it is. And Mark's absolutely right. We recommend no more than 3 grams of fat per dish that you eat. And so look at the fat content and decide. So let's assume it's 1 gram of fat. For example, in my dish, I did use artichokes. My wife bought them and they had a little bit of oil, but it was 1.5 grams. And I said, let's go with it. And it was good. It was nice and flavorful. So these are all calculations we make. So if you decide to use that dressing, then keep in mind, maybe there's something else that you would have eaten that day that maybe you should cut back in fat. And so what I would say is, if that makes a difference, if you're eating a salad or not, then probably that's a good choice, because the salads, all these fresh fruits, vegetables, throw some legumes in, throw some some whole grains in. There's so much good nutrition there. And if using that dressing encourages you to eat more like that, perhaps it's a good choice. Also, a question just came in from Judith Henry. And Judith, I believe, is in St. Martin, I think. And I've been to St. Martin. The vegan cruise is called Holistic Holiday at Sea. At least twice we went. I think it stopped in St. Martin both times. Gorgeous island. So I'm jealous, Judith, that you're there, and hope you're enjoying wonderful weather. So Judith asked 2 questions. Let me handle the first one first. With the bread salad, can you add it last? You might want to repost to clarify. I'm not sure what you mean, can you add it last? If you meant, can you make the bread salad and serve it last in a meal? Sure. I find that the bread salad benefits from a little bit of marination, but not too much. If you marinate it too long, the bread can get soft. And it all depends on what bread you've used, how much you've cooked it, how much you've baked it. So this is one of those recipes which honestly always comes out great. I hadn't made it in years. I have this thing with my wife. I've known her for, 16 years, and I've never repeated dinner for her. And it's kind of a fun self-imposed challenge. I do it, I think, to show off how easy it is to be vegan, how easy it is to be whole food plant-based. But that doesn't mean I can't repeat a side dish, and there's no reason not to make bread salad. And in preparation for the show, I've been making different variations of bread salad, and my wife and daughter have been raving, this is great. And my daughter asked me yesterday or the day before, I have a almost 13-year-old daughter, she said, Daddy, can you make bread salad a little bit more regularly? And I think I will. So Judith, it's easy. The bread salad is so tasty, and it's because of all those ingredients in them, in the salads that you make. And when I used to teach, before I was a Food for Life instructor, I used to use some oil in the bread salad for the bread, and it made the bread crispier. But we don't miss the oil. With the right flavors, with broth, with herbs, the bread salad is so good. But Judith also asked, is oil necessary in dressings? And I was wondering, I could take this, but let's maybe have Cody pick up on this. Cody, can you talk about why, if you have a choice, and we always do have a choice, why not using oil could be a better choice, could be a good choice?
Okay, so yeah, that's a great question. You don't need oil in a salad. We've all, made a lot of our own salad dressings, and they're just as delicious without the oil. And it's funny because, like, if you ever, go oil free, like, or very low oil, like we are, and then you, like, say, eat out at a vegan restaurant, and sometimes they tend to use more oils, and you get it, and you're like, oh, you can really tell it's too much for me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of these other Food for Life instructors. But you don't need it. You still get all that flavor. It's just delicious, and oil is just extra fat. And like Mark said, he's teaching a weight loss class, and if you're really trying to lose weight, that's one way to cut the fat, and you won't miss out on anything. You're still going to get these amazing flavors, and it can also lead to potentially the more fat you get can also lead to cardiovascular disease. Now, if you use olive oil, it has a very low amount of saturated fat, but it does have some in there. And when you eat saturated fat, it can contribute to your body making more cholesterol, and then that can lead to cardiovascular disease or atherosclerosis. So we want to try and reverse any kind of cardiovascular disease or chronic disease if we can, potentially. So that's why we go to low to no oil on everything.
That was one thing I learned when I became a Food for Life instructor. Before that, I used to always use oil. When I would cook, I'd get a pan out and I'd put some oil. I didn't put a lot, but I always put oil. And then I realized when I became trained that it's really not necessary. And there is a transition to mouthfeel. If you've been even vegan for a long time and you've been using a lot of oil, and then you go to a no oil or limited oil diet, it'll taste different, and you may not like it at first. But I tell you, it's worth it. Because everybody has limits on how much fat you want to eat. And thanks, Judith. Everybody has limits on how much fat you would eat. So in Food for Life, the Physicians Committee program, we recommend no more than 10% fat calories. There are credible people out there. Nutrition is a fluid science. And there are credible people out there who are promoting whole food plant-based eating, but they say you can go higher than 10%, maybe 12, maybe 15. The reason that we recommend 10% is every single study that talks about any kind of reversal, the reversal goes away at 10%. And so we suggest, why not go with 10%? But whatever your target is, even if you're not with us, you might say, well, what Cody said makes sense, Mark, Karen, all of them, what they said makes sense, but I'm going to eat a little bit of oil. Then there's something else you want to cut back on. And you know what I like to eat? I like chocolate. Does anybody here like chocolate? And chocolate has fat. And so since I'm not eating the olive oil, I feel I can have a little bit of chocolate because I have a target of how much fat I eat in a day. And so those are some benefits. The other thing about staying away from oil is you don't get thirsty. In the old days when I'd have pizza with vegan cheese, right? And when we get pizza nowadays, I prefer pizza with no cheese. The flavors of the vegetables come through. My daughter likes vegan cheese. Sometimes I'll have a little bit of vegan cheese with my pizza. Sometimes I'll make a pizza, I'll put vegan cheese on half and maybe sprinkle a tiny bit on my side. But I really like it without cheese at all. There's tons of vegan cheeses available. But when you're not eating cheese, vegan or not, you don't get all that sodium and you don't feel thirsty. Before we move on to the next question, let's go back to Judith, and that's another bread salad question. I was wondering if I can mix all the ingredients first, and when ready to serve, add the bread. So make this recipe your own. I think it was Karen who was saying that recipes are points of departure. I like doing the way I suggested, starting with the bread, throwing it in the bowl, and then as you add ingredients, you're picking up flavor. I start with the vinegar or broth, and then as I add things, I'm building flavor into the bread. That's why I'd rather put the bread first, but try it, see what works for you. Let's see. So, Mark, I wanted you to please talk about Frica. You've talked about Frica in the past, and it's an ingredient that many of us, including other Food for Life instructors and cooks in the kitchen, aren't so familiar with. So, and I'm sure a lot of people in the audience would like to hear even more about Frica. So, can you share more about Frica, more about what it is, where it comes from, and other things you can do with it?
Yeah, so Frica is a whole grain. It's an ancient grain. I think there's the documentation that I've seen dates it back to between 2000 and 1000 BC. Just a fascinating little story that I read. Apparently, it was discovered when a city was ransacked basically by an enemy city, and the village was entirely burned down. And when the townspeople went back to the village, or as they started cleaning up, they found their grain stores were burned. But out of a sense of probably really survival, they tried to save the grain because they had already harvested it and so forth. What they did is they thrashed it. They beat the grain probably with heavy sticks and swatches from other plants and everything, and knocked that the outside coating that was all charred from the fires. And they found that it was this very edible, smoky grain. So it's typically made from a durum, or very whole, more of a nutty type of a grain. I only discovered it probably about maybe 2 years ago, and it's one of the things that this diet has really afforded me was a kind of opening up to all different types of flavors and textures. I mean, I never heard of Frica. I think Faro, that I think it was somebody else made on the show this week. Kiwa was something that I heard of, but never, now I eat that. So I think that's one of the things that this diet really does, is it exposes you to all different types of flavors and grains and so forth. So the first time I used Frica, and I made this, I think it was probably about 6 months ago on one of the shows, I called it Fricanos and Frica and cauliflower. And it was a creamy kind of cauliflower dish with Frica. And, so you had the texture of the roasted cauliflower and the Frica and this kind of creamy sauce that went along with it. And it just really tasted wonderful. So those are the two ways I've made this salad. And this salad was really a concoction that my wife and I both came up with. We took a couple of recipes. We liked the whole preserved lemons, and then we saw a Frica recipe that had oil. And that's the other thing, that just if you find a favorite recipe, there's a lot of ways you can trade out the unhealthy ingredients like oils and cheeses and make them your own. I think to Karen's point, those recipes are that jumping off. So play with it. If you try Frica and you like that smokiness, I could see mixing it with fava beans and maybe different types of onions, and it's just a unique grain, and you'll impress the heck out of your friends that you're introducing them to something maybe that they don't know.
I love a Frica tabbouleh salad. Frica tabbouleh salad is one of my favorites.
I've never made that one. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It
really
sounds
good.
really nice. Yeah.
So
what do you put in that? Parsley.
Lots of
and
parsley, lemon juice, fresh tomatoes, a little celery. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Love that.
That'd be nice with the preserved lemons too.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of ingredients, and you, Carolyn, let's talk about simpler ingredients. So broth is something a lot of people are familiar with, and you mentioned, and I did too, actually. And I didn't spend enough time talking about broth, so this might be a good opportunity. You mentioned using some broth, so could you take a moment to talk about how to have a vegetable broth and what some of its uses could be?
Oh, there's so many different ways to use vegetable broth. So one way is making it yourself, obviously. And a great way to do that is just to save vegetable scraps and put them in your freezer. Keep a big Ziploc bag in your freezer. And every time you have vegetable scraps, ends of carrots or whatever, parts of vegetables, that peels or whatever, just put in the Ziploc bag. And when it's full, cook it up into a broth, strain out all the solids, you've got vegetable broth, and you don't even have to add any salt to that. There's also store-bought off the shelf in those vacuum sealed containers. You can get a low sodium vegetable broth that way. I always think homemade tastes better, but those are good in a pinch. And then another way is those little jars of vegetable broth paste that are pretty high in sodium if you prepare them the way the package says. So one teaspoon to a cup of boiling water has a lot of salt, but you could cut down on it by doing a cup of boiling water and half a teaspoon of the broth paste, and then you're going to have a lower sodium broth. So I always think homemade tastes better, but there's a lot of different options out there.
By the way, I wanted to also mention, I wanted to apologize. We had some internet problems, and I feel bad. Susanna couldn't stick around, but her broadcast was interrupted and stuttered, and a couple of the other ones of ours also, and I apologize. We do the best we can. We do what we can with internet, and some of that's unpredictable. So I'll check with her, but most of us, when we are broadcasting, are also making a recording, and it's a little bit of luck. She's recorded it, and then we could actually post it, and I'll ask her right after the show, and then we'll try to get it up there. So I apologize for that. And also, I said this at the very beginning, but I thought it was appropriate now, just as a quick interruption from our discussion, is all of us also wanted to recognize that this is the 20th anniversary of September 11th, which means it was a terrible, terrible day, and we thought about who we present today, and we certainly didn't mean disrespect, and we decided that we don't want terrorists to win. We want life to go on, and we hope that so far we've added a little bit of joy to what is a commemoration of a terrible day that's changed so many things for so many people around the world. So just another quick acknowledgement of that. Let's go back to, sorry, did somebody else want to say something? Another quick comment about an ingredient, and that's pineapple. And Carolyn, you could take this again, unless somebody else would like to talk about pineapple. So Debbie couldn't stay here, but Debbie had a beautiful pineapple and was talking about pineapple. There's Carolyn's pineapple. I love Hawaii too. I've spent time in Hawaii every other year. It's one of my favorite places. So what I wanted to say about pineapple, and there's our star, Nora. Nora, you did a great job in your cooking demo. I wish I were as good a cook as you, Nora, when I was 5 years old. But hi, Nora. Thanks for cooking with us today, sweetie.
Yeah.
So let's talk about pineapple. So we teach, and in a few minutes, we'll talk about the Food for Life curricula, the FFL classes. So one thing that comes up sometimes is pineapple. So I'm wondering if somebody could talk about what is glycemic index, what foods are higher or lower in the glycemic index scale. Some of us have met the gentleman, he's from Toronto, who's created the glycemic index. He's spoken at our conference a few times. But what are some of the benefits? And maybe this is a Karen question because you dive deep in terms of background on particular foods. What are the benefits of pineapple? And I'm not diabetic, but if I were diabetic, should I not avoid pineapple and watermelon? Those are two of the few, fruits that are high in the glycemic index. So Karen, could you take that, and if and of course, Carolyn, you could also tack on some of your thoughts.
Yeah, anybody chime in, but watermelon and pineapple are higher glycemic. Like the lower glycemic fruits are the berries, and if somebody is diabetic, like type 2 diabetic, and that like just starting this whole food plant-based, no oil, like low fat diet, it's going to, the higher glycemic fruits are going to spike the blood sugar more. So at first you want to stick with the lower glycemic fruits and get the fat out of your diet. And then maybe, because the fat clogs up the cells and stops the insulin from letting the sugar into your cells, so it stays in your bloodstream longer. Once you've gotten the fat out of your diet for a while, you might be able to handle more higher glycemic fruits.
Does anybody else want to talk more about pineapple as a food? I know a whole food plant-based diet helps with so many things. It doesn't help with your back, and I occasionally have back pain, so I see a chiropractor periodically. And so when I do have pain in my back, he recommends an enzyme that comes from pineapple, which I think Debbie had mentioned. I'm blanking on the name right now. I'm sure one of you knows it.
Bromelain.
Bromelain, right? So bromelain. So pineapple has many positive qualities. You know, I also wanted to throw this out, a question. I have a friend who's kind of interested in plant-based eating, but isn't convinced fully that one needs to be fully plant-based. And he was reading that some author who was suggesting that you really don't want to follow a diet where you're supplementing. You should get all that you need from food. And I said, absolutely. And that's true with a whole food plant-based diet. Now, everybody, whether you're vegan or you're eating dead animals, does need, especially once you hit 50, does need to take a reliable source of B12. And the reason is, in the old days, we didn't purify our food. Our friends who are eating animals, the reason they're getting, Mark, should I tell people the gross reason why people are getting it?
Go
or no?
for it.
Go for it.
I like grossness.
The reason our friends eating animals are getting it is not because they're eating meat, it's because of the fecal matter. When the animal is killed, then inevitably the intestines are perforated and they're, what's left after you're done eating gets into the dead animal material. And that's, so B12 comes from bacteria, it does not come from animals. And so sometimes, but even meat eaters, that's not reliable. So if you're still eating meat or eating animal products, still you really should take B12. So that's the one exception. So I agree that we should eat foods where you nourish yourself from the foods. And if you're interested in this topic, there's a wonderful book called Whole, W-H-O-L-E, by T. Colin Campbell, and he talks about eating foods and getting our nutrition from the foods.
Something, Dilip, I wanted to point out
Sure.
about pineapple really fast. There are some
Great.
people who really should be careful about how much pineapple they eat. So people taking any kind of antibiotic or an anticoagulant, an anticonvulsive, if you're on medication, sometimes the bromelain in pineapple can interfere with certain medications. So, but hopefully most people on those medications would know not to eat an abundance of pineapple. You could probably have a little bit, but blood thinners, people taking blood thinners probably really need to be very careful with the amount of pineapple they eat. So
that's a good point. And one thing I also wanted to mention is maybe I'll ask Karen to talk a little bit about what is the Food for Life program. And what we do is we do talk about nutrition from an evidence base. We have lots of evidence supporting what we're doing, but we also say we don't give one-on-one advice. We talk about trends and what we've seen for large populations. But before making any diet change, you should definitely talk to your healthcare practitioner. That said, most MDs, most doctors don't have, just haven't learned that much about nutrition. That was one of my missions. I'm executive producer of a wonderful film, if I do say so myself, called Code Blue. And we talk about that, about how we need to bring nutrition into medicine. And maybe in a minute, we'll talk with Cody about nursing. But let's first talk about the Food for Life program. So Karen, can you share a little bit about what is the Food for Life program?
Sure. And I just want to say real quick about the pineapple, like a good, like in Carolyn's salad, or by chopping it up fine, or a fine thin dice or whatever, just putting bits of pineapple in something, you're getting that flavor, and you're not eating the whole pineapple. But you can get that pineapple flavor in every bite. So that's a good way to have it in her salad. But the Food for Life program is a nutrition education program from the Institute for Responsible Medicine. And we do show evidence-based, the science behind why we do all this, but we do the nutrition education classes showing how easy and how delicious it can be to eat this way, to eat low-fat, plant-based whole food. And I mean, I love it. Just all my classes, I still have people that keep in touch with me who are still, so they try it. They have the support of us during the whole series, if you're doing a series. And they try it, and maybe they were skeptical at first, and maybe they weren't, but they try it, and they're still sticking with it, and they see results even in the 4 or 5 week classes or 8 week classes, and then keep going. And that's what I love about this, just to see the results that people have, getting rid of all kinds of health issues.
I'm just typing a note. Thanks so much, Judith, for that really nice comment. And we actually do have a Food for Life instructor in the Caribbean. Does anybody remember what island she's on?
Dominica, the island of Dominica.
Yeah.
And she's a cook in the kitchen. She's not, because of her schedule, is not often able to join us. But look her up because she offers classes, and see if, and by the way, we offer virtual classes. I think, Mark, you have a virtual class going on right now, for example. So even if you're in a place where you don't see any current classes, you can join a class. I think Cody also may have some virtual classes going on. I'm actually, it's interesting, I love this new Turkish community center where I was earlier, and I rushed home. And I'm actually going back there tonight. We're launching a series of Food for Life classes, and I'm giving a talk tonight. Cody, I sent you my slides for that. I'm giving a talk tonight and showing some clips from Code Blue. I'm really excited. This event sold out like that. So there's a lot of interest in plant-based eating. I have a lot of people I wanted to invite, and I couldn't because the event sold out. We're distancing people because of COVID. Cody, can you talk? First of all, congratulations. Maybe you'll share a few words about your new role. And I know many people who are joining us may not be healthcare providers, but some of them might be. And so could you share, and Nora, if you want to share about your mom, you can also, but can you share about about nutrition programs for nurses in particular, and what your involvement is?
Sure. Yeah. So this is kind of an unofficial, I guess, announcement. But recently,
and let me interrupt you, Cody. I don't want to spill the beans. So if it's not official, then you can speak in generality.
No, it's fine. We can totally talk about it. I'm excited to. So definitely. Myself and Tammy Robertson, another Food for Life instructor and so many cooks in the kitchen, was recently asked by Dr. Carolyn Trapp from PCRM to take over her role in the Nurses Nutrition Network leadership. So Tammy and I are going to take that on, and we're just super excited about this. And what we do is we meet quarterly, and Tammy and I are going to be getting speakers and topics figured out, and it's for nurses, and it's pretty fun. So we get together and have a great conversation and learn a lot and laugh, and it's just wonderful. And then we're also going to be presenting at the International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine, and it's again the Nurses Nutrition Network part of it, but we'll be going to DC next August for that. And we're really excited, and we're just starting to kind of get our plan for 2022. Our next meeting is October 6th, and they haven't released the speakers yet for that, so I can't tell you yet who that is. But you should, if you're a nurse, you can go to pcrm.org and search Nurses Nutrition Network, and then you'll see the last conference, which I was a guest speaker at, and you can watch that. It's recorded. You can also register and be a guest, for the Nurses Nutrition Network. So we'd love to have you. So please tell your friends.
And I have to say, I saw Cody's presentation was outstanding. She's all of us, I think, or at least the rest of the cooks in the kitchen I know are really strong, and I just feel so honored to be part of the group. And if you get a chance to meet any of us and work with us, Cody, for example, gave such a compelling talk, and then she made it really real because she actually talked about her own family and the experience with that. So if you get a chance, please connect. All of us love sharing, and we're fortunate because all of us were picked to be Food for Life instructors because we know what to do in the kitchen. We know how to handle all these ingredients, how to make healthy food, and then we get constant education. We have education every month from Physicians Committee, which is a group of tens of thousands of people around the world, and it's focused on evidence-based information. So with respect to the comment that just came in from Judith, there should have been more people like you. We're trying to get out there. And if you want to be a Food for Life instructor, we didn't do training because of the pandemic for a while, but we now do have our next session scheduled. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe our next training is virtual. Is that correct? I think so.
It is. And the deadline is already passed, I think,
Oh,
to sign
sorry.
up for it. Sorry, yeah. Pretty sure the deadline came and went.
Passed, yeah.
Yeah. And what does it take to be a Food for Life instructor? You have to be vegan. You have to be primarily whole food, plant-based. Do you have to be 100% no oil? Nope, you don't have to be. But you do have to be 100% vegan. And it's a pretty rigorous process. I was surprised to find that less than half of us are selected.
Something like 30% or something like that.
We're interviewed. Our backgrounds are checked. We go to in-person training. It's a good process. And I learned so much from my fellow Food for Life instructors.
Hey, if I could piggyback on Cody's announcement, I've worked in healthcare, both at 2 academic medical centers here in Chicago, and worked a lot with nurses. And I just got to say, I know both Cody and Tammy, and I can't think of two better torch carriers for nurses into the world of whole food plant-based than those two. Their compassion and their dedication, their knowledge and their approachability. Having worked with a lot of nurses in the past, nurses are really the ones that form those close relationships with the patients. There's not a lot of physicians out there, and it's really a function of the system. They can spend a lot of time with their patients, but it's the nurses that build those relationships, and it's just so significant that we've got two people like Tammy and Cody, who are Food for Life instructors, really working with the nursing community and educating them, because the nurses are the ones that feel the pain and see the pain day in and day out of all these very life-threatening illnesses.
I totally agree. And those of you who are medical practitioners, doctors, nurses, other allied health professionals, or if you want your healthcare provider to be more connected, we have lots of resources. We have a pamphlet for hospitals. We have, Cody, I think we have some materials specifically for nurses, and nurses can join your network, of course. And maybe while we're talking, if you can find the link to the nursing network, you may want to post that, Cody. And then what we're trying to do, it's not doctors' faults, but doctors don't tend to get nutrition education or significant nutrition education. So PCRM has actually created 2 bills in Congress. They've been in Congress for a long time, requiring doctors to get some more nutrition education in their medical school and to get ongoing nutrition training. So we're trying to make that happen. And as I said, there are some great resources. Believe it or not, a lot of hospitals have junk food in the hospital. McDonald's, Burger King, other fast food foods. And so PCRM has worked with the American Medical Association, which, who remembers when it was, 2 years ago, American Medical Association made a statement that we want to encourage all hospitals to have healthy, whole food, plant-based choices in the hospital. So there are a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of public policy we're trying to change so that word gets out there about these kinds of things.
If I could say one more
Sure.
thing just in terms of healthcare. So I was talking with my class this week about, I think, Philip, you had said about physicians not knowing a lot about nutrition and certainly about whole food plant-based. And, when I went vegan, my physician did not believe that a diet could change one's overall health profile. She believed that you could lose weight, but it was really going to take statins and high blood pressure medicine to control those 2 elements in me, in my health. And over, the 3 years she was my physician, she saw the difference. So, I made her a believer, and then she retired. So, so now I'm training a brand new physician who's in her early 30s. She's an attending physician at an academic medical center here in Chicago, and she's got. And I go to the residence clinic, and I particularly chose the residence clinic because I felt, as I sought my healthcare, I could educate them, and I'm doing that. So, physicians are curious and want to learn by nature. So don't be afraid to provide information from reputable sources like PCRM, like Forks Over Knives, like the Plantrition Project, which is all about physicians and educating physicians. Don't be afraid to provide those resources, those links, those articles to your physicians, and help them learn how to help their patients better, or at least to understand what you're going through and what you're learning. Because we've all had physicians tell us, well, that's a tough diet to follow. It's not easy. It's not going to work. Educate them. They're great folks. I worked with so many physicians in my 15 careers in healthcare. So please don't hesitate to provide information to your doc so that they learn as well.
No, those are all good comments, Mark. One thing we'll put up on the screen in a moment is there's a great resource called nutritionfacts.org. So Dr. Michael Greger.
Yeah, I put it up there already. Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, Cody, could you maybe put up the link to Nutrition Facts, please? So Nutrition Facts, Dr. Michael Greger is, there we go, thank you, is a physician, and there's so much good nutrition education that common people may not find accessible. So what he has pledged to do initially is to read every single article written in English about nutrition and summarize it that common people can understand. And he's made videos and articles. I don't know if he still has the pledge of reading every single article, but there's thousands of topics he has out there. So I encourage you to check out Nutrition Facts. So if you have a physician who's somewhat interested but doesn't know what to do, or maybe you learn, because one thing we don't want to do is look up on the internet and say, oh, I read an article that we eat only potatoes or we eat only onions and we're going to be super healthy, right? And then we start doing that. So there's a lot of misinformation on the internet for sure. But if you read something that's credible, especially if you come to, credible sources like PCRM, Nutrition Facts, VRG, Vegetarian Resource Group, and quite a few other places, take it to your physician and say, according to the research, I understand that eating such and such would be good for me. The doctor may not know that, but if you give him, from Nutrition Facts in particular, Michael has included, Dr. Greger has included the references from the primary literature, so that's all great stuff. By the way, there's an interesting comment. We're probably going to wrap up in 5-6 minutes, but any more questions, please do bring them out. But Judith had an interesting question. This comes up, sometimes I get that with my students. Judith's vegetarian, so she's a pescatarian, meaning you eat fish. I always think that vegan is hard. You need to know the right foods to eat, and to me that's not easy. I did it for 3 months, and that's why I turned to eating fish again. And I appreciate that. That does come up a lot. I personally find being vegan is easy. I can't speak to your particular situation, but I find vegan is easy. There's so many varieties of foods. Let's take a moment to talk about maybe Carolyn. Yeah, Plantrition Project's great. Carolyn, maybe you could talk about what are some issues with fish, why fish may not always be the best choice or may not be the best choice, and then maybe we can go back to maybe Mark to talk about how easy it is. I claimed it's easy. Let's see if Mark agrees to be vegan, because I know, Mark, you used to eat a heavily meat-based diet, so you'd be good to talk about that. So Carolyn, can you talk about any issues with fish?
Sure. I think the biggest issue is that it's actually much higher in fat than people think it is. So I think it's Dr. Bernard, who is the head of PCRM, that all of us Food for Life instructors are associated with, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Dr. Bernard frequently talks about fish and how surprising it is to most people to find that it is incredibly high in fat, and not just what people consider the healthy fats, but also saturated fat. There is quite a bit of fat in most fish. The other concerns that I personally look at is the environment that the fish comes from and what it's swimming around in. Living very close to the Gulf where I am, a lot of people eat fish out of the Gulf. Well, if you remember a few years ago, there was quite a large oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and everything was it's very polluted. So what you're getting in fish isn't just fish, you're getting everything the fish swims around in too. So, there's, there is some evidence that certain kinds of fish are better than others, but by and large, most fish is much higher in fat than most people realize. So, and I think that's surprising when people think, oh, fish is healthy food and it has healthy fat. But, I don't think there's any such thing as healthy fat. And, most of it is saturated fat. When you stop and look at the breakdown of the fat, there's an awful lot of saturated fat, even in fish.
Yeah, and before we go to Mark to talk a little bit about how easy it is to be vegan, I just wanted to mention to Judith and to everybody, we're not trying to point fingers and say you should do this or you should do that. And I applaud you, whatever steps you're making towards eating plant-based. For some people, they're eating animals, but they're eating more and more plants. And I think you're going to see significant improvements the more plants you eat. Many of us say if we can see more improvements, why don't we eat 100% plants? But everybody's different, and I can't presume to tell you what to do, but I applaud you for moving towards your diet and eating what you are in terms of all the plants. Mark, is it easy being vegan?
At this point in my life, it is, and I have this conversation. So maybe it's because of my profile, maybe it's because of my history or whatever, but I tend to get older vegans attending or people that are later in life attending my classes. Right now I have a class, it's fascinating, of retired education professionals and some attorneys and so forth, and just they're all retired and they're like, what, we want to die well. We want to prevent any kind of major illness in our lives, and that's why pretty much to a T, they're attending this weight loss class with me now. So, I was a pescatarian for 25 years, and I ate cheese and fish, and I was arguably had better diet than most people around me. And then, cholesterol, weight, and blood pressure kept going up. And the more research I did, and it was when I exposed myself to the information that I really made that decision to go 100% whole food plant-based. And it was a journey. I started that journey, when I was in my 30s, and, then when I was finally about 54 years old, I went 100% whole food plant-based. So actually older than that, I've been 56 when I went whole food plant-based. So, depending on your age, the clock's ticking. So I'm going to be a little bit more direct maybe than Dilip, is in this instance. And I'm going to say, the clock's ticking, and the sooner you can be whole food plant-based, if you're later in life, in your late 50s and 60s, the better off you are to go whole food plant-based. Jump in there, try different textures, try different foods. I'll sometimes make things with vital wheat gluten, because when you cook with vital wheat gluten, it gives you that chewy texture of meat. And there's so many products out there now. Try the bridge foods. You don't want to live in the bridge foods. So the things like tofurkey and veggie dogs and the breakfast sausages. Just try that stuff to get yourself acclimated. Make it easier on yourself. Move to whole food, plant-based, no oil over the course of time. Set a time. Take some classes. Expose yourself. You're here today. That's a great first step. But the clock's ticking, especially the older you get.
One thing I wanted to throw out there is I believe one reason there's conflict in the world is conflict over resources. And, people will argue for a long time, why do we have tragedies like 9/11? And I think one reason is because of competing for the same resources. And I know many of the cooks in the kitchen, I think all of you except me, were in a book that's just come out that's about the environment and how we can do better. Food is climate.
Got it.
So, Cody, can you talk about this book by Glenn Mertzer?
Sure. So, there's a bunch of us Food for Life instructors that have contributed our very own recipes book, and they're all whole food, plant-based, vegan, and it's the back section. I think there's over 60 recipes, so it's a great resource, and it really dives into like research and the true reason for climate change. It's not. There's no biases in it or anything. It's just telling you the facts. And basically it comes down to is that food, what you eat, especially animal products, especially like the beef industry and everything, how that can contribute predominantly to the devastating climate change that we're seeing so much. And it's like, I think it was like 87% is related to animal agriculture. So it's just, it's an amazing resource. I think everybody should get it. You can get it on Amazon, and it's just less than $10 for a hard copy. I think it's around $5 for a tablet. And so it's affordable, and it's a great read, a lot of great recipes in there and everything. And we're happy to be a part of this. My daughters are in there as well, and they're happy to contribute their own recipes, which I know that they've actually demonstrated some of those recipes on our shows. So it's been pretty fun. So I'm just excited to be a part of this book. And I'm sure the rest of you guys are too. I know Karen's in there, and Carolyn and Mark. So yeah, it's a great resource.
And speaking of shows, so our next show is actually the beginning of October, October 9th. So many autumn harvest foods. That's going to be exciting. There's so many nice foods to make. I haven't decided what I'm making. I don't know if anybody here has decided what you're making. Wild rice sounds kind of nice. That would be a fun thing to cook with. Maybe wild rice with cranberries or something like that. And then in November 13th, those of you who are watching or participating from North America, I'm not sure about Mexico, but Canada and the United States, there's different dates, but we celebrate Thanksgiving. And so we're going to do a program, so many more Thanksgiving dishes, because we did a show last year, so many Thanksgiving dishes. So our new one is so many more Thanksgiving dishes. And then after that, we haven't set the date, but we're probably going to do a show on holiday desserts like we did last year. It'll probably be something like so many more holiday desserts in early December. And then the kids in the kitchen. So Cody and another instructor named Ella and I have children, and now they range in age from 5 to 12. And so we go kitchen to kitchen from Durham, North Carolina, including Durham, North Carolina, Providence, Rhode Island, and Omaha, Nebraska. And these kids do an amazing job cooking. They are going to be doing October 16th. We haven't set the time, an autumn food show, which would be really fun. So we encourage you to follow us on Facebook so you can keep those dates in mind, or on YouTube or on Twitter. And with that, are there any final comments or questions from Karen?
Oh, I just wanted to say, eating whole food, plant-based, you can get in and out of the grocery store in no time. Just do shopping right in that front section. You just ignore the rest of the store. And
Right.
Yeah, it can be easy. It can be quite easy. But everybody, and one thing is, if you're not brought up with a bias towards plants, it can definitely be hard. You have to relearn things. But be assured that we're here to hold your hand, and there's many, many, many other resources. PCRM, we have so many recipes. Please consider taking a Food for Life class. You're going to learn a lot about that. So I'm part of IVU, International Vegetarian Union, and we have a huge selection of international recipes, and we are in the process of converting them. We call them old recipes because nowadays people want to see somebody, a video, and we're in the process of maybe creating videos of some of them. So watch ivu.org. There's a nice website. It's called Fat Free Kitchen, and they have all these wonderful recipes that are oil-free. They've been around since way before I was a Food for Life instructor. I knew about them, and I know some of the people involved. So there's a lot of resources, cookbooks, films, in addition to my film, Code Blue. Forks Over Knives is a great film to watch if you're an athlete. Game Changers is also a film made by some important Hollywood folks. Did we post about Seaspiracy? I think we did.
Yes.
So there's a lot of information, a lot of recipes. Join the 21-day Kickstart. Maybe Cody, if you have the link, you could post it. I think it's 21daykickstart.com, but double check before you post it. So 21-day Kickstart is this wonderful program where it's free. And if you sign up, you'll get guidance on a daily basis for 21 days. I think you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner recipes. I've never signed up. I don't think I need it, but I would probably learn something from it, right? So I probably should sign up if it doesn't hurt to.
It's really good.
Yeah, I'm sure it's excellent. So we also, Physicians Committee has wonderful free seminars. We just announced the next one coming up in a few weeks. So if you come to pcrm.org, check it out. I've attended a number of the seminars. I've been a guest on some of the seminars. They're excellent. They're full of wonderful information. Yeah, and I think it's just Kickstart. I think it's 21daykickstart.org will get you there, or 21daykickstart.com gets you there also. But the seminars are great. They have a lot of the headquarters staff. They have dietitians, nutritionists, MDs. They have Food for Life instructors. They're outstanding. So check out pcrm.org. So there's a lot of resources there for you. Yeah, it's kickstart.pcrm.org. A lot of great resources out there if you're looking for them. So we thank everybody for spending your day, either if you watch this live or if you're watching this after the fact. Our shows remain up. You can watch them afterwards. So does anybody want to make any final comments before we close? Carolyn, Mark, Karen,
thanks for everybody spending your afternoon on a Saturday here on September 11th. Our thoughts go out to the families and loved ones who've lost folks on 9/11. I think as Bill said, we've all experienced a lot of change in our life as a result of that. So,
right.
So we hope to see you guys on the website and also with our next show. So, and please send, if you have any thoughts, post them on Facebook. You can email us, pick any of us. You want to write to Cody, it's cody@somanycooks.com. So it's our first name. We have two Denises. So if you end up sending a note to Denise at somanycooks.com, they'll both get it. So we're covered there. So if you want to reach any of us, just our first name at somanycooks.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll answer questions as we can. And and thanks so much, Judy. That's very, very kind. We really appreciate your very nice comments. We appreciate your watching us. And again, the recipes are available. It's more than 30 pages again, I think. It's lots of great stuff. Brenda Davis, one of my good friends, one of my favorite nutritionists. She's so kind. She always contributes an appendix, more information about salads. And she has some really good thoughts on salads and some controversy about salads too. So I encourage you to look at her section and look at her whole document. So with that, we thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So many cooks in the kitchen, so many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.